We're going to start off with the chair would accept a motion to go into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in public hearing. With the first item in the public hearing is Amanda, you have the floor.
Good evening. Missouri state statute requires that we have a public hearing to address all of our TIF districts once every 5 years. So this meeting will satisfy that requirement. We're here to go over we have 6 TIF districts we have 3 TIF districts and then 6 redevelopment agreements within those districts. So several of those, you can use a TIF district in order to pay for professional services, land acquisition, demolition of existing structures to rehabilitate the property, and then build necessary new infrastructure for the redevelopment plan. So I just want to go over a few of those that we have. The first TIF area that we have is the Colton Steakhouse and TIF. It was opened in Highway 60. That was part of that. That TIF district has paid off and has been closed. That debt has been paid. We also had a Holiday Inn Express TIF district that was open in October of 2012 for the construction of the Holiday Inn Express. That TIF district has also been paid in full. It was paid in February of 2023. RPA 2 and 3 of the 6061 TIF district, they were previously terminated. Those were terminated by ordinance number 6311 on May 22nd of 2023. The North Main and Malone development area, which many of you will understand, that's out by Walgreens in that area. Where Buffalo Wild Wings, that was a TIF district. We'll have some ordinances later on this evening where that's going to be paid in full. We're going to terminate that TIF district and then enter into an agreement with Missouri Department of Highway Transportation to pay the TDD, which is something separate from the TIF. And then the only other one that we have is the Highway 60 West Malco. So we have a TIF district, and that is paying off as expected.
Cool. Are there any questions or comments for Amanda? That's great. We need to make a motion to accept it.
Yeah, and you probably want to close this public hearing and open a second one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we do need a motion to accept the TIF district.
Yeah, to accept the report.
Yeah, the report. So chair would accept a motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept the TIF district report and make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Teachout,
Yes.
Lible,
Yes.
Turnbow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
and Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. He made a double motion, so now we're in regular session. So now the chair would accept a motion to go into another public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in public hearing. And this covers the recreational trails program grant application. And Zach, you have the floor.
Okay. Mayor, Council, glad to be here. I'm Zach Buckler, the grants administrator for the city. You'll see before you some amended changes because in the original council packet, we were seeking a recreational trails program grant through the Department of Natural Resources. We applied in 2019 and we were we were rejected at that time for this proposal for a trail from North Kings Highway out to the complex. And unfortunately, COVID and things have changed, and we were working with a consultant to get some updated numbers for what it might be in today's terms. And unfortunately, it was about $100,000 over budget. So we're now kind of amending this application, should the council approve to go forward with it, to ask for grant funds to construct a trail from essentially Columbine at the Sykeston Kindergarten out to the recreation complex, following the north end of East Salcedo Road. And then maybe in the future, maybe seek additional funds to connect it completely as part of the original trails program to what's there on West Salcedo at Kings Highway. So this is they match You can get points based on match requirements. I think originally in our council packet, we had been aggressive with a 30% proposal. Given the estimates we've gotten from Lambert Engineering, we're kind of concerned with some of that. So we've lowered the match to propose a 20% match with 80% being asked for from DNR. So hard numbers to do this shortened addition from the kindergarten to the complex was an estimate of just about $300,000. $294,742. So with that, we'd be in at almost $60,000. So for $58,948 match, we would request $235,793 and grant funding to complete this project. I think that covers it. Jay might know some more of that. I hope I didn't gloss over something.
As council knows, we've been aggressively trying to build trails in different parts of town. We've got 3 sections of the rail trail being under grants right now. We've got some second one on West Street. Other areas we're looking, hoping to connect trails in multiple areas of town. This is one that we did want to connect with the existing trail coming from the junior high terminating here at Kings. We've not been able to get updated numbers from MoDOT in helping cross Main Street. So with the additional costs, we felt like it was best to connect up here where this existing sidewalk is. This does leave a gap here that we will have to come after afterwards, possibly a MoDOT cost share project. But this is just one of several trail projects we're trying to see happen so that we can see these go up in different parts of town.
So, but what this does is just commit us to a resolution from this body saying that we support pursuing this effort and that if awarded, we would commit the 20%.
Are there any questions or comments for Zach? Seeing none, the chair would accept the motion.
You're looking for a motion on the new resolution, Zach?
This is
Yeah.
just that's going to be on the first item.
Oh,
Right now.
is this just the hearing?
Public.
The public hearing. Just
So
to
there's
close out
no,
the public hearing.
okay, so this is no motion to be made on this one, to be on the next. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, any question?
Or comments for Zach? Seeing none, the chair would accept a motion to adjourn out of public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn out of public hearing.
Second.
Motion made in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are now out of the public hearing. Now going into, now we're going into this again, right?
I think so, right? Okay.
Item on.
So part of the-
Resolution, okay, for resolution 250102, authorization to apply for recreational trails program grant. And Zach, you're up again.
Yeah, so I'll reiterate a little bit. Again, we've changed the scope from what was in your original packet to be the shorter edition of trail, applying for a lesser amount of money, but with this council's approval, we need this resolution as part of the application.
So now, are there any comments or questions for Zach? Seeing none, the chair would accept a motion for resolution 250102.
So moved. Second.
Motion made in second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Lible,
Yes.
Turnbow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Teachout.
Yes.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
The next item that is up is second reading and consideration of Bill 6363, nuisance parties and large gatherings. The chair would accept a motion for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading, Tabitha, please.
Bill number 6363, as approved, shall become ordinance number 6363 and shall amend Title II, Chapter 210, Article 5, offenses concerning the public peace of the Sikeston Municipal Code of the City of Sikeston, Missouri. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Sikeston, Missouri as follows. This bill introduced includes sections 1 through 7, all of their parts and subparts, and it's read this second time, the 27th day of January, 2025.
Thank you. Chief, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Good evening. So we're reading this ordinance the second time, and it's just proposed nuisance party ordinance. And as I stated at the last meeting, over the last several years, we've seen an increase in parties, frequent gatherings, large gatherings in residential areas and areas adjacent to residential areas. So many times these parties last till 4 a.m. or later in the morning. The problem that we usually get is complaints from citizens that are asking us to address these parties. So complaints are various for loud noise, people parking in blocking streets, litter, blocking home access, egress for driveways, disorderly conduct, sometimes fighting, sometimes even shooting. So we're looking at that, and we're trying to find a way. We got some of the citizens here tonight who have spoken to me about trying to address this issue. And we looked at an ordinance that Cape Girardeau's had for several years. It's a nuisance party ordinance. City of Columbia's had one too, so it's not anything really groundbreaking or new. Several other municipalities have similar ordinances, and basically what we're trying to do is find a way to control the parties that get out of control is really what we're trying to do. So as you might imagine, a party that's getting out of control requires a large number of our officers to be present to try to get that party under control, and especially when fighting breaks out and that type of issue. So when we do that, it actually causes a difficulty for us to maintain a presence in other areas of town. So we're trying to ensure that people have the right to peaceably assemble, but the question is, what do we do when it becomes not so peaceful? And some citizens have complained to us about it. And we're trying to bring this forward to try to give us a little added measure to work with people who are throwing parties and try to partner with them. And those that are unable to keep it peaceful, we're asking that we have the ability to stop those types of parties, which I think will be infrequent. I think my goal is to really get cooperation from people who are having parties. And having this tool, I think, will help us do that. Mr. Robinson, you asked me if Cape Girardeau, that effect it's had on them. They said, that's what they told me. They said it's another tool in a toolbox. It hasn't solved all those problems, but it has helped them work with people who are throwing parties. So that's really the goal here, and we're just asking council to consider.
Are there any questions or comments?
I should say, the way that we want to administer this question was asked the last time. I'll say it for everybody here, is that if we can't get that cooperation or the party becomes out of control, that phone call from the on-duty officer will go to command staff or myself, and that decision will be made at that level because we want to make the right decision here.
Great. Any questions or comments for Chief? Yes, sir.
Yeah, is the parties you're talking about strictly on the west side of town?
Well, no, we've had them in various parts of town. We've had them at the Shriners. We've had them on East Kathleen Street. We've had them, I mean, they're at various different places, so.
I was thinking, going over everything that you mentioned there, was if they're blocking somebody's driveway or parking where they shouldn't be parking, we would need an audience for that, where you could just call the police and they should tow their cars or make them move, because everybody got a driver's license, know you can't block them.
Yeah, the problem we get into is when you have loud music, or if you have a shots fired, or even, the car we could tow, that we do handle that sometimes, but a lot of times people don't own up to, or they don't tell us who is playing loud music, who is shooting the gun, obviously. And so it makes it a little difficult to address some of those things.
So are you trying to just cut the time down that people can be out there
No.
partying?
No, it really doesn't have anything to do with the time, other than the time sometimes causes people to become upset in neighborhoods. I mean, it's just, you can imagine 3 o'clock in the morning, if it's loud, I mean, it's going to upset more people at that time, I think, probably than it would at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night.
Is there a limit on the amount of people? Like if I have a party, should I, invite 10 people, 20 people?
Well, the only limit would be like in accordance to like fire code or something, capacity of a building or something.
Residential area, would that that apply?
Well, I think that the main point, I mean, we're not really looking at the number of people there. We're looking at the complaints that we get in from that, or the fighting, or things like that, that sometimes occur at some parties. It doesn't occur at all parties, and normally it is just a few people that amongst the group. I think probably 99% of people want to come out and have a good time, but there's that 1% element, and sometimes they're not even from here. They come from Mounds, or they come from Cairo, or, you know, and then and sometimes it's easy. It seems like the people that come from out of town seem to be involved in more problems than, you know how that happens sometimes, but. Well, again, it's difficult to hold them accountable when people either don't know them or don't tell us the information about that. I mean, it does make it challenging, for sure.
So in other words, you punishing us for the people that have come out of town,
Well,
and punishing, so you gonna cut us or the people that live in Sikeston?
If it's violating the law, there is really, you know, where there's assaults taking place, or there's, you know, noise disturbance, or so. I mean, if we're not getting any complaints, we don't care. You know what I mean? It's
We had the return to sunset here, especially the generations of sunset, us older guys, 70 and above. You know, that we wanted people to come home. We gave away free food. We fed over 2,000
sure.
people.
Yeah, and those are peaceful parties. We're out there and participate in that.
11
And
o'clock at night. We never did have that. People
Right.
out there for security, people out there that
yeah,
let everybody know we
yeah.
no disturbance.
And you probably didn't hear us trying to shut y'all down either. Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah. Yes, sir.
You came out and said that we did.
Right. Those are good. And those are the kind of parties we want to make sure continue to be safe, and even parties at home and stuff like that. It's when the law violations, people get assaulted or guns get discharged, and we're trying to address those kind of things. And we're not trying to punish anybody. We're trying to protect, you know, the peace of the people that are calling and complaining about it.
Maybe I missed something. What are the parameters of this, or is it like a judgment call, or is there a limit? I mean, how do I know that I'm violating the code?
There is a list here that shows the violations of, you know, and it just lists crimes, property damage, shootings, assaults. You know, there's a litany of crimes here, but it'll be somewhat of a judgment call, yes. And so if the way I envision this, if we get a complaint at a party location, we're going to try to talk to the person that's in charge of that party. And there's another problem. Sometimes we'll go to that party and it's difficult to find who is the person in charge, because they're not always just raising their hand saying that's me. And so if we can find the person throwing the party, then we'll talk to them and try to address, you know, hey, here's a complaint. Can you turn the music down, or can we do this, or can we do that, and throw out some options. I mean, that's what we want to do.
Would clarify for me the parameters of it. I'm not sure if there is a law violation. You have the authority to do what you need to do within the law. So I'm trying to understand how this ordinance is going to put me in or outside of the law, and so that I can fully understand it. You know.
I think it'll be pretty obvious. Like, if there's
somebody is committing a crime, that's one
Right.
thing. If I have a party and I invite 10 people and 50 show up,
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
That's not a problem. The problem is when the assaults and that kind of stuff takes place.
So ideally, I could have a party and 50 people might show up or more. That's not a problem.
That's not a problem until there is a complaint about noise, and then it's something that trivial, although there is a noise ordinance, we would go and we would say, hey, can we turn the music down? Can we do this? You know.
Bothered by the appearance of a crowd.
Right.
There doesn't have to be a law violation.
Well, I mean, the officers obviously would show up and they would evaluate, is there a violation, you know, the validity of the law being broken, you know, or something like that. So
Is this only for a venue or residential?
it's residential areas and areas right next to residential.
See, because we don't have a place where we can go and socialize. And,
Well, I'm not trying to stop that. You know, it's not, we're not trying to do that.
I mean, from what I can, get from all this is, that it doesn't matter. I mean, like you said, if you invited 10, there's 50, it doesn't, that's okay. As long as everybody's, they're not parking in the driveways, there's not any assaults. And then when it gets, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, you're not playing real loud music to where everybody's complaining, and then they're having to come out for that. I mean, we're just asking.
What does the ordinance, yes,
Yeah.
if it's,
Well, I think, Chief, if I can chime in here, the ordinance has a very specific list of the violations that make it a nuisance party, none of which have anything to do with how many people are there. And then it gives the officers the authority to order the people at the party to disperse, basically to close down the party.
But is everything on the ordinance, is that already an ordinance, or is already like parking in the driveways and loud music and disorderly conduct? Is them ordinance already?
Yeah, I would say all of those things
Yeah.
are
So, I mean, like,
of themselves.
loud music is, let's say we go there and there's loud music and we can't get the person to turn it down. My goal is that this be a last ditch effort, and so we can issue a citation, but then they just keep turning the music back up, and then we
shut down, we called the police because we had a crowd of very young people out there from the age of
Right.
15
Well,
25. But let me,
mhm.
we had that crowd up there, and the police came to disperse that crowd. But yet the next day, everybody was telling us how the police had to come up and shut us down. The police didn't come shut us
Right.
down. We called the police to come.
Yeah.
So in a case like that, we're asking for help from our city and the police who's supposed to protect and serve us old people especially.
Yeah.
in this
But
ordinance?
the kids didn't pay the police.
Right, and when we go to these parties, a lot of times people are glad to see us there. And it's because of the violence that they know that can happen. And what normally happens is, you all know this, I'm not telling you anything, but some people get into it and there's an assault. Oftentimes these days, there'll be a shooting right after that,
They should be identified
Yeah.
as the people that
Well-
does that, the younger group, and then sometimes it's not necessarily the younger group.
Yeah.
We tried to survey our Return to Sunset, and do you know almost 80 to 90% of the kids was out there wasn't even from Sykeston.
Right. Yeah.
They were from Charleston, well, not to mention Charleston, but they were from all our surrounding cities.
Yeah.
And we should not be held responsible for those kids that haven't been reared the right way.
Right. No, I agree with that. I mean, but the problem that we get into is people participating in that process and telling us who it is that's actually causing the problem. I mean, people don't really want to raise their hand and say, it's this young man right here, because that kind of, you know what I mean?
When that information do get brought to you, and it is assaults going on, like why don't they go to jail? If they fighting or
Well, I think we act on those. I mean, when we get that information, we act on that. Now, if you're talking about the criminal court system and how they handle it, that's another issue I don't have control over.
There's been several times where things have not got handled, and the police have got called, and it's like, you asking for help from the neighborhood, but the neighborhood asking for help too, because half of these people that's coming around starting problems, and you just said that, it's other people. Them the people should get hold accountability for what they did.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that. You're right,
Different individuals is willing to give information on those people when needed.
I got a question. How about the venues that are adjacent to neighborhoods, venues that are in the neighborhoods that are really residential homes and stuff like that, similar to the Miami Arcade or something that may be something like that.
Well,
what would be the
I mean,
parameters for a venue?
it would be the same, but if we're getting complaints, then we would go to Mr. Turner and say, hey, we're getting complaints here. can you work with us here? That's going to be the main goal here. It's like we're trying to partner, just like this man said, we're trying to partner with people and try to protect the people who are holding the party. Like, what do you need? But, you know, trying to address it in that way is really what we're trying to do, so.
So what does the ordinance stand for? What is you asking for to happen? I mean, what do it consist of? If
Well-
everything we say is okay, as long as we keep it within reason, what is the ordinance?
Well, that's fine, but if there's an assault that takes place
Okay.
and then it starts getting out of hand, that's when we're going to look at this and make an evaluation. Probably first going to talk to people unless it's just something that's just gotten really out of control. But we're, you know, throwing a party and you're within ordinance, we're not going to address that at all.
Is the ordinance gonna specify time? I don't have a clear.
Well, there's no time frame. There's no time frame. This is basically based off citizens' complaints and law violations that are already on the books, so.
Already in place, ain't it? Y'all come out if there's a disturbance and this, that, and what the ordinance gonna do?
The ordinance gives us the authority, if we can't get the person that's throwing the party, that's responsible for that will help us turn the music down or help us, you know, work with us to control that party that's been getting out of control. It'll help us just disperse the party.
But y'all do that anyway. Y'all come out anyway and do
This
that.
is the ordinance that.
This would make it legal.
You're right.
So the other terms would be illegal, but this would make it legal.
We try to get people to leave. That's right, because we know the violence is going to happen. I mean, that's what we're. Not all the time, but you know.
I haven't seen no violence in the community. Did y'all put them cameras up around the neighborhood?
Well, that's not true because we had one in December where a guy was shot in the head just to graze on Frisco Street. I mean, that just happened, and no one gave us information about that either. And so that's the kind of thing we're looking at.
You asking for
You know.
more citizen participation with the police.
Always.
You know,
Yeah.
as far as that going. Because I'm getting ready to open a business down there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very concerned about crowds
Right.
and so forth. But at the same time, I need the crowds to come in. You know what
Sure.
I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So I have to find out a way to get with the police officers, maybe even some kind of advocacy or something that we could have down there, you know, a go-between. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Or something like that. Maybe that would help. You know,
Yeah.
something happened. You got somebody that's trusted in the neighborhood, male, female, and they can go to the people where maybe the police is not trusted. And they can get information and say, hey, you know, and this is what this guy do, or this
Right.
woman do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe something like that, Chief, will help.
Well, I mean, that's a good idea. This is trying to prevent that party from
Preemptive, I
escalating.
understand
You know,
that.
that's really the goal of this, is like we see the problem happening and it's growing and like she said, not all parties, but we do know that we've had shootings here
Yeah.
at parties. I mean, we've had one on Plantation where 9 people were shot and 2 were killed. You know what I mean? That was something, and we were getting complaints that night, you know, and if we had something like this and it was getting out of hand, and we could go work with that homeowner and try to keep it, you know, keep the peace, you know,
It's
so.
a tool that helps preemptive with
Right.
these kind of things.
But as long as everybody's obeying the law, there's not a problem.
That's the key.
Everything,
Yeah, that's the
everything
key.
in this,
Yeah.
it's just saying, is, you know, there's no limit to how many people or anything like that. But as long as there's not complaints and everybody's obeying the law,
Yeah.
there's no fights or anything like that.
There's no
then-
time constraint or
Yeah,
anything
there's
like
no-
that, so.
But we all know that if you're in a residential neighborhood and it's 2:00 in the morning, and you're playing music as loud as you can, somebody's going to complain. And when they do that, then they can come
Yeah.
shut you down, or they're going to work with you, but they're going to also, you know, if you don't work with them or can't find, then they'll just have to shut the whole thing down. We're not reinventing the wheel. It's just giving them the right to be able to shut down a party whenever any of these things occur, and they can, you know,
And like I said at the last meeting, I know that if we shut a party down, we're going to get complaints. And so I'm not just going to shut every party down. That wouldn't be helpful to me. You know, I mean, it's going to cause a big problem. So if we happen to do that, that's why I want that decision to be made at the upper level, so we know that what are the circumstances, what did you have happen there, what did the party, person say is throwing the party, and then we'll make the evaluation there. That's, you know, so.
I would like to tell you personally that I go to a lot of these parties and I do feel more comfortable when I see police officers outside for myself
Yeah.
and others. But the thing is, right now you already come to these parties and when you feel like it can become unsafe, y'all exercise the authority y'all have to shut them
Right.
down. But if you put this ordinance into place, it ain't really no coming back from there. Like, we ain't got no wiggle room to argue with you to go back and forth. You have all authority to shut these parties down. So
Right.
this really is kind of like taking away our say-so, truth be told.
Well, I mean, again, if you feel like that we shut a party down, we shouldn't have, there's a process that we can come through. I mean, whether it's speaking with me or the city manager or my captains or whatever, and we can talk about that. That's really my goal here, is to try to work with everybody. I also have a responsibility to try to keep people safe too, you know, so, and I think we all agree that sometimes things aren't safe, you know, and trying to predict when that's going to erupt is very difficult for all of us, you know, I mean, and so I think the partnership is really what I'm after here. It's not really to shut parties down.
Mr. Turner, he's been doing an excellent job of keeping people safe, you know. That's why I'm not totally
Right.
for that right there, because I know Mr. Turner been working hard and I've been with him a lot and he's been working hard to keep people safe. And I watched his post on Facebook and it seemed like it's concerning him, so I wanted to come out and speak about it on his behalf, because I see that brother work very hard in his business to keep people safe and promote these
I understand
parties.
that.
He's been doing a great job of it. Ain't nobody been hurt.
At break time, and I've seen fights there, but y'all ain't going to shut break time down and telling them that they gotta shut down because it's been a fight here.
Well, we actually talked about, at the previous meeting, we talked about when a party left the Shriners and went to Huck's, and you'll know we had a murder at Huck's. You know what I mean? So,
But it wasn't even a party that night, y'all had the murder, so y'all ain't shutting break,
Well,
y'all didn't shut us down.
it is some, I mean, I'm gonna say it's not a part, the people at that party at Shriners all went to Huck's, you know, and then they went to another party location. So, and that's kind of what happens here, you know, the parties kind of move from place to place.
When I worked at break time, it wasn't a broad daylight. They fighting, scrapping.
Yeah.
Couple times.
I'm,
But nobody come to shut down. Whenever, okay, well, there's been fights here, I've known fights to be here, but y'all gotta close at 7.
well, we're not, I mean, if a party is going on there and there's law violations, we would disperse that crowd for sure.
When those parties come, when those parties happen that you shut down, where do people go after the different locations, right?
Right.
So what's gonna be the difference with this party get shut down and go over here and this party?
Well, I hope that the person throwing the party there will work with us. That will be the difference. We're looking for some partnership. That's what we're looking for.
Partnership is fine, but if you targeting a group, you're not targeting just us old black
Yeah.
people. Because a lot of times, I don't go down to Sunset
Right.
after dark simply because the police are already sitting down there, and when they pull you over, they'll say, "Where you going?"
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. I am targeting a group committing violence. That's who I'm targeting.
No, I haven't been down there after 5 o'clock when there wasn't 2 or 3 police cars just sitting there. I mean, just sitting and watching children. I'm like, why are they sitting there watching children? And then turn
You saw
around,
at
somebody
West
over
Side?
me, say, I'm
At West Side,
72
is it?
plus.
Yeah.
I don't trust nobody pulling me over for anything.
Well, specifically at West Side, we've had multiple murders at that location. That's one of the reasons why they watch that area very closely. Over the years, we have.
What do those cameras like? What is that?
Well, the cameras are good, John, but it doesn't prevent it from happening. I mean, we're trying to, I think if we're just solving it after the fact, we're failing, you know.
Y'all, with these crimes that you saying that y'all getting complaints about in the shooting?
It helps us solve that case, but someone is still shot and killed. I'm wanting to try to find a prevention aspect of what I'm doing, you know, trying to,
Yeah, I understand that. That's very,
be
Because-
totally honest with you, my main concern is for my grandkids and for my great-grandkids. When I was coming up in the sixties, they told me, if you have a problem, find you a police. You cannot convince one of my grandkids or great-grandkids or the police officer.
Right.
They scared of the police.
Yeah.
That's what needs to change.
Yeah.
We need ordinance for those things.
Yeah.
Because it's an undescribable feeling for my grandson and great-grandson to be afraid of police. In 2025, I mean, in
Yeah.
the sixties, we didn't have that problem because we had our own communities. But now that it's spread it out,
And that's the culture we're living in now, and our department has done a lot of effort to try to change that. I mean,
Lori, you have something to say?
I do. So with hearing everything that was brought before, what I would say with the city is, what is gonna be the tracking measures on what I believe that I'm hearing the concern from the citizens is, how do you know that you're not being targeted? So who's going to be the one to track what the complaints are, who is making the complaints, and how the complaints were treated and identified and documented to ensure that it is safe, that it is fair, and that it was justified.
Okay.
So if the city would then track this information, and then there are complaints from the citizens saying that these were unjustified closures or shutdowns, or they were unfair, then who then would handle that this ordinance was unjustified or handled incorrectly?
So, I mean, you can get a complaint, somebody saying it's unjustified, and then this ordinance allows, like Chief or JD to be able to go down and say, but they were breaking this in the ordinance, this and this and this. Chief, I would assume that the complaint would probably come to you, is that correct?
right.
Typically, I would steer him towards chief first, but I think also to address something Lori said, if DPS were to take an action based on this section of the code, my assumption is you can put that into your system, and there'll be a record that this section was cited.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
we-
I mean,
we could
that's
go back.
basically what this is reports that we've had in 2024. There may be some older than that in there too, but, any kind of incident like that, we do a report on just so we can track that specific location and problems that we've had there. And in this situation, we would detail what part of this ordinance that we ran into, where it was a violation, the person throwing the party, what was their interaction with the officers, and detailing all that. Because again, I do expect that people aren't going to be happy if it results where we have to actually shut down a party. So I want to have all those that information detailed so I can explain it to the person making the complaint.
So Lori, your answer to that question with Chief would be, and he's going to monitor that anytime they shut down a party, they're going to make a record of it and have a reason why the party was shut down. So then if somebody has an issue, they can bring it to Chief, and then he can discuss it with them.
So who monitors that information is being transparent, I would say?
Well, we can certainly, if it's the council's desire, a year from now, 6 months from now, whatever time period, we can go back and review all those cases and see how they look. Or if somebody brings a complaint to us, we'll look at it obviously at that moment.
I think that's fair.
I can have a file on that. We track our pursuits. We track, what else do we track? We track the pursuit. Oh, taser deployments and stuff like that. So I could simply make a file for that we could review at 6 months, or and any action we've taken, we'll throw that in the file, so.
Yeah, if we could sort of create a spreadsheet somehow, it would say,
yeah,
on this date, this party, and it was shut down because of this, and then just go like that. And then if somebody complains afterwards, put that down also. Somebody complained, said, that they didn't feel like they were handled justly, we'll take a look at that too.
Will those records be open to the public, or?
Yeah. for sure.
I'm assuming, Chief, it typically would generate a police report,
Right.
which unless it's part of an active investigation, is going to be a public record.
Yeah.
Any other questions or?
Is the complaint, so if you come and shut the party down, is the person that owns the business or, at the business or what, are they gonna be able to know that they got a complaint called on them or who filed a complaint on them?
Well, I mean,
That's what
yeah. I mean, sometimes people don't want to leave their name, and are we going to, well, let me finish, all right? I mean, that's going to be weighed in there, so, I mean, if we witness a violation of the law versus an anonymous complaint would lead us there to examine it ourselves, okay? So, anonymous complaint for loud music, if we show up and there's loud music, well, we don't really need to complain it anymore because we hear the loud music ourselves, which can be documented with a body camera or anything like that too, so.
Are there any more questions or comments for Chief? Yes, sir.
It don't seem like the community really agrees with you on the subject right here. And since Sykeston, since the area that we live in is so impoverished, and there's really not much to do, and we got a summer coming up in a few months, and the community seems not to be in support of this, I think it would only be right, since this is in a community that you don't live in, doesn't really affect you. I think it's right if we probably take some time and look over this and see if we need to move on this so fast, because the reason I'm saying that is, although safety is important, I also fear what happens if these parties start getting shut down and people no longer want to go. Mr. Turner not only going to lose money, but it's going to start sending people in other directions that's probably going to start causing more problems than what we probably aware of right now.
I do live here, first of all. Secondly, if Mr. Turner has violence on his lot, that's not going to help his business either. I mean, so, and to say that we acted quickly on it, that's not true either. We've been following this for a couple of years now, and, we're trying to look for a way to keep people safe, so, and the reason that this ordinance started was because citizens came and complained. I didn't start this. I'm merely reacting to citizens' complaints. That's.
Me too.
Right.
Me too.
So.
Sir, you had a question.
Well, there's some people that do agree.
Yeah, and there's some people that don't.
Well, that's true.
Sir, you had a
that's why
question.
we're both.
Right over here, Chief.
Okay, this one, how is it that we can validate that an officer have actually received a complaint, and for them just showing up and saying that the music is loud, so it's time to shut it down? Because without any type of, they just said, well, we received a complaint, it's anonymous. They could just say that if they can read or not. What way can they have to validate that they just like someone actually complained and sent them there?
Yeah.
They come here and start want to shut stuff down because they might not. So they patrol and they hear that they decided it's been long. I'm gonna shut them down. And too many people might be this here. They can receive a complaint, so they come in.
Well,
but how
again,
do you validate that?
that's why we want to make that decision at our level. Okay, I want to make that decision, or one of my patrol captain make that decision. But officers observe crimes all the time themselves, and that's admissible evidence. I mean, so now if
Loud music isn't a crime.
well, it's an ordinance. It's an ordinance violation.
Okay, ordinance violation. Okay, but again, we saying when does this? What is the time this ordinance, this violation take place? I mean, is it 1 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 a.m.? I mean, if it's what is the ordinance? What does it say? And then again, if there is a complaint, if there isn't a complaint, how do the person who's having a party, who have the gather, have people come to have a party, to be there, be able to say that, know that this officer didn't just take upon himself because they didn't like the music that was being played or whatnot. It comes to what I received a complaint and then started telling people they got to leave. Because if someone comes to me, I have a party, and an officer comes to mine, I'm where the complaint from? Show me something that I really received a complaint. Because, I don't I would want to know, because I don't think my neighbors will pretty much say, but I would want to know, did they really receive the complaint?
Yeah, well, there's records when those phone calls are made in. Those phone calls are recorded, so there's a record of that. And then the officer can go out and make his own observations. So it's no different than if we get complaints called in about somebody speeding on North Ingram and the officer goes out to North Ingram and sees the speeding and then acts on that. So you don't necessarily need the complainant at that point because the officer sees it. It would be identical to that.
Yeah, and to be clear, for one, nothing is prosecuted based on the complaint alone. The officers in any case are going to go out there, make their own observation, verify, okay, is there one of these crimes committed? So they're not going to write a ticket or take some action based only on the complaint. That's their own observation is going to be necessary. But also a complaint is not necessary either. The police officers, if they don't receive a complaint, but they observe discharge of a firearm or indecent exposure or peace disturbance or any of these things, they can take action without anyone else complaining.
It's still subject to the officers, it's subject to how they ascertain what the music too loud or not.
That's right.
On their opinion, see, and.
Well, it's not opinion. I mean, there's a certain footage that if you can hear the music past 100 feet, I mean, and then that's the violation of the ordinance that was passed here some years ago. Yeah, we're pretty lenient on that. I don't think we write a lot of those tickets. And again, we're not trying to shut parties down. I mean, but we want to keep people safe. You know, if I had a sergeant call me and say, "Hey, they're playing loud music here. Can I shut the party down?" I'm probably going to say no, because that seems like, I'm going to say, "Have you talked with the person throwing the party? What was his response? Where are we at?" You know, we may not shut the party down. We may go out there the next day and say, "Listen, this is what the ordinance says. All right, we allowed this last night, but we can't have this 3 nights a week. You know, you got to work with us here. So we're going to ask for some compliance." I mean, it's what we're going to do. We'll be very reasonable with it.
It's not the officer that makes the call for shutting the party down. It's you or one of your chiefs.
Right, one of my captains, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about the time. You can have a party
Right.
to 2, 3 o'clock as long as you're peaceful. Ain't
Right,
no
that's
loud
right.
Music, ain't
That's
nobody
right.
shooting, ain't nobody fighting. Am I right or not?
That's right. That's 100% right.
But what if,
We're gonna.
and my neighbor said, well, Gene playing real loud music, if only because he doesn't like me. Because I'm old or because I study or whatever.
Yeah.
But if an officer comes and he can't hear the music and there is no music, does he still knock on my door?
I mean, if he's gotten a complaint in, he's probably going to make contact with you. Yeah.
But he's coming for a voice.
But he's doing that now.
Noise.
He's doing that now. You know what I mean?
How does this relate to venues?
Venues?
Like Shriners or the arcade or anything like that.
Well, it would be
police allowed to come into the building, search or look around or do a peace check or anything like that, or
Right. I mean,
what's the parameters?
it's. I mean, basically, so it's a public building. Then yes, they're allowed to go in there. So if it's next to a residential area and we're getting complaints in, then we're gonna address it the same way. You know, we're going to ask for compliance and try to get that worked out. We don't want to shut down parties because lots of people are going to be upset, and that's going to cause me a great deal of work and heartache. You know what I mean? And I don't want that. So, no, absolutely not. But
I'm not speaking on parties. I'm just saying some of these businesses are zoned right next to residential neighborhoods.
And that's a problem. I mean, we've gotten complaints from residences next to venues like that. I mean, people, you know, I mean, and they've called me and say, "Hey, why can't we do something about this?" Which is what led up to this. So
We're going to have to, move on this, and we've had a lot of discussion on it. So, just need to, as far as chief and the police officers do not want to come and make you upset by any extreme. They gain nothing by making you upset. The goal is for everybody to live peaceful and not make each other upset. So, and obey the laws. If you obey the laws and you don't get complaints and everything, then everything's cool. So, in my opinion, we just need to put this to a vote.
You got somebody. Can I ask one last question
Mhm.
about, is there anything that falls behind that? So are there citations? Are there fines for property owners that are throwing the party or gaining, financial resources from having these parties, whether it is the venues or what is the end of not just the closure,
Right.
or is that the end? That you shut down the party and things just continue on? Is there any recourse for a habitual violator of these laws or issuances?
No, we don't have that in here at this point or anything like that. Some of those ordinances I read had stuff like that, but we chose just to keep it really simple and not go down that road at this point, so, if that answers your question. Did you have another question I missed? Or?
Yeah, I don't see how, you shut it down, but
Oh,
it seems
that's,
like it
yeah.
will continue if
If it's, let's just, I'll use,
Habitual.
if it's noise, the noise violation, and the officer, he's very likely to write a citation for noise and shut the party down. But just shutting the party down itself, there's not going to be any kind of citation. We had to shut your party down, here's your citation. That's not what that's about.
Chief, I think the only citation under this would be to an individual who refuses to disperse.
Right, that's correct, yeah. Right.
So I do have a question because I did get several calls on this and somebody asked, what's the difference between if we have this ordinance in place or not? So without this ordinance, what will we do as a city to control things like this happening? Or opposed to with this ordinance, what's going to be the
What we
difference?
have been doing is putting a large number of officers on the property. As you all well know, we're very short-staffed, and it's very difficult for us to do that, and it takes away from policing of the rest of the city. And the thefts that we've had from cars, we're trying to stay in other residential neighborhoods too to try to deter that, and it's difficult, So if we're having a party that is reaching that area where it's getting out of control and we're not getting any cooperation, it's hard to put officers there. As much as people like that, it's difficult and it's a burden on taxpayers to have officers there for several hours just so the peace is kept, if that.
See,
Quick thing. I want to deal with the elephant in the room. We already, black community, feel like we're being over. Now with this ordinance, you are adding more of a police, this just me talking now, more of a police presence in our community. And people are feeling like they're being over police, it's just police everywhere. So with all of this going on, you still got all the violence, all the shootings, everything still going on.
Right.
So I don't understand what the ordinance is going to do to change that. And what is the ordinance going to do to help us feel safer? Because right now, we're not feeling safe.
Well, the ordinance is designed to help get that partnership with the person throwing the party. That's the goal. That's what I'm looking for. As far as not feeling safe, I think you might have to get more specific exactly what you mean. The over-policing, we have a lot of violence that happens, and we respond to that violence and try to deter it as best we can. But it's hard to answer that question generally, you know what I mean?
I'm just saying from our perspective, that's how we feel. And if you have an ordinance, how is that going to?
Well,
you got an ordinance.
we have.
You already have the right to arrest people and go out and stop a lot of craziness that's going on.
Well, Ms. Love, though, when we had a 14-year-old shot on Branham Street, we feel the burden to provide that safety, and that may be why you're seeing police in those areas, is because we have shootings there, on Branham Street. I don't know which area you're talking about specifically, but
I still call it Sunset.
yeah.
West End.
Well, I can assure you we have police officers in other areas of town too. For sure.
How people feeling about that. I just think this ordinance is something that we need to look at.
Well, the
organization,
right.
because I know you assume they're going to do what they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But it leaves a lot of interpretation
Yeah.
of particular officers, how they see it.
Well,
think it's something that we just.
Well, I'm not sure it has, I mean, the statutes are listed in here, so there's not, I mean, there are law violations or ordinance violations, so there's not really much interpretation there. Those are ordinances that are already on the books. And we're basically saying if there's going to be illegal activity there and we're not getting any, depending on the severity of that, and we're not getting cooperation from the person that's throwing the party, then we may shut it down. I mean, most of the time, I think we will. I think people will work with us most of the time. Sometimes they don't. And, you know, the genesis of this type of ordinance comes from citizens' lack of participation in telling us who is doing what. That's and I'm trying to work with that as best I can. And, to give officers a little bit more grounds to try to keep that party a little peaceful. And when we know that it's escalating there, that's what I'm talking about. When there's been a fight there, and we know that it's very likely that there's going to be a shooting arise after that.
This is the last question, and then we got to move on.
But like when we had Return to Sunset, that's a plan.
Right.
Correct? Why did they come and shut it down this last year? A lot of people are on private property.
I think it's because it's a public park and it closes down at certain.
In the public setting. It was when we were on Luther Osage. And they came and made everyone leave. What was the purpose of that? It was peaceful. It was a 10 o'clock.
We don't hardly ever have problems there at Lutheran Osage anymore, so I don't know. I wasn't aware of that. So
Is it just because it's a gathering of more than 20 people, or I mean, what is it? I'm not understanding.
well, if you have something like that happen, I wish you'd reach out to me because
But this Return to Sunset has been going on for 20 years.
right, we're there. Yeah,
Right.
we participate in it. I mean, it's a great time.
Right.
And
But I wasn't understanding why that setting was shut down. Nothing was going on. Nobody was misbehaving. No, it wasn't nothing going on.
I can't talk about it because I don't know the details about that.
Specific.
You know what I'm saying? Like she was saying, we're not doing anything. We came together because we heard people coming
Yeah.
from out of town, miles away to see things.
Right.
And then, everybody needs to leave, go home. And then it's
Yeah.
the manner of shutting it down. It's not, can everybody please peacefully disperse?
Sure.
Or rude.
Yeah.
Chief, it sounds to me like she's talking about a specific
Yes.
But that's always.
incident.
If a black gathering is going on,
Well-
9 times out of 10, it's gonna get shut down, just because we are black. But I thought we had the right to.
That's not true. That's not true. The difficulty of what you're describing is knowing who that small percentage is that's actually causing the violence. And
But if it's none, I mean.
And our officers-
If they know that somebody's having a gathering, they'll go sit across the street. So is that a form of harassment if you hadn't been called? I mean,
Right.
I'm not understanding. I mean, and then the shooting that was going
You know,
on.
but at the same time, if we're not there and something takes place,
But that can happen.
it can, for sure, for sure.
But I
Yeah.
don't feel safe because, like, they'll get out and mace people and do all type of stuff. I mean, I don't want to go to jail. Right. Just because I come out to a social gathering. It's nothing else to do here.
I'm not sure we've maced anybody in years. You know, we don't even carry that stuff anymore, but.
It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, it just starts to feel as a form of harassment and not help.
If you ever have a certain situation like what she's talking about, if you ever have a certain situation like that, call Chief up. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, we're talking about specific instances now, and we're talking about a generalized, a format right here. But when you got something like that happens, you know, get a hold of one of the captains or ask to speak to one of the captains. If somebody says you got to disperse and y'all not doing anything, ask to speak to one of the captains. I guarantee you that they'll have to call somebody and be able.
It don't work like that.
Say what?
It don't work like that. It don't work like that. You have to talk to a chief not here or.
But there's always a captain. Is that right, Chief?
Captain's the same way.
You got one fit in a white.
John, we've talked to each other. I mean,
I just asked for the sergeant. They locked me up, took me to jail. I just asked for the chief or whoever was in charge.
right.
He said, "Go home."
Yeah, that was me, Mr. Turner. I told them to arrest you when you didn't return the property that belonged to DPS, no parking signs.
I asked them to go, for you to go pick up the signs, and then you weren't giving them to them.
I asked to speak.
So they did call me that.
I asked to speak to you. I mean, I ain't get to talk to them.
We're going to get out of the specifics and go forward from here. We've had our last question on this topic, and right now, right now we're looking at a motion for Bill 6363, and the chair would accept the motion.
Well, Mayor, before we go into that motion, I would just like, it seems like the citizens have a lot of questions about this ordinance, and they did have a lot of questions that was probably unanswered. So just like we do on other issues with like study sessions or something like that, if we can give them an opportunity, because I did receive a lot of calls to say that we already had things in place that we can already arrest them. If it's somebody blocking a driveway, we can already have that car towed. If it's somebody doing something, we can already arrest them and stuff like that. I understand what Chief is saying, but I still hear too the people saying that they do still have a lot of unanswered questions here tonight. They haven't quite gotten a clear understanding of what this ordinance is exactly doing, because it sounds like we have a lot of ordinance and laws already in place to actually handle what's going on. I got those calls, and as they were talking to me, it did make a lot of sense to me. So what I'm going to ask the council to do is just like we did with the rental process or any other thing when we have a study session, just give these people an opportunity to come in and get a kind of better understanding of, and I do hear Chief is not like I don't hear you, but I want them to understand too, of what you're saying, because I think it's just, and I asked you that night when you said that, what did I ask you last time? I said, well, have you had a chance to talk to those businesses? This was my first question. And try to work with them rather than have a whole new ordinance, because I knew that this probably is they're gonna be feeling like just the way they feel tonight. So when you work with somebody, I think that if you were willing to work with the businesses and they were willing to work with you, then I don't think we'll need such an ordinance. But if we're not gonna work with them, because the thing about it is when they brought it to my attention, if we have this ordinance in place, we're still not doing anything extra, because we already have ordinance in place that they can still already arrest people. They can still already take people to jail. I get what he's saying as far as the extra people out that time of night, but then they know, hey, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then this ordinance will come into place. Just giving them an opportunity to work with you, knowing that there's something that can be put in place, and then we probably wouldn't even have to deal with this if we can get them to work with us as far as their crowd, because they can already shut it down. I'm sure they shut plenty parties down, as the young lady said tonight. So that's what I would ask on the behalf, because I did receive a lot of calls, a lot of questions that I didn't feel like answering. I just said, show up tonight, ex-chief, he'll tell you. I understand some of the stuff, some of it I don't. They made a lot of sense with the laws that's already in place. So I would just ask that we give them an opportunity, just like we do with anything else when we have study sessions, to kind of get you to have a better understanding, put things in place. And they did have some very vibrant questions when they said, well, who's going to be tracking and different things like that, just so they don't feel a certain way. With this administration, especially with Chief, I trust Chief, so I think those questions can be asked, and then we can come back to the table and just decide then. But I think we need to give the people that come out to speak tonight the benefit of the doubt, just like we always do with anything.
So if that was the case, what do you propose how Chief would answer the questions?
Just like we do. We had a study session. We have the Clinton building, we open it up. We say this issue is going to be on the table. Anybody that have anything they want to know, we come out, we set it up just like we do with anything else. We let them come in, we listen to their questions, we try to answer them for them, get a better understanding, because it's still, if you feel like you got a clear understanding, then that's one thing. But they still saying that they're unclear about what he's presenting, because there are already laws in place that say that these things can take place. So the purpose, only other thing that I can see tonight that I can explain to you all that I hear him saying is that without this law in place, it's extended hours for the people to be there just watching a party while it continues to go on. And if this was in place, then it could be shut down, they can be going on, and they won't have to use up tax dollars. I can't explain that to y'all. I got a
If
clear
it's out of control.
of that,
I mean,
right, if it's out of
Right.
control, right. And so I did get a clear understanding of that, but it's just not about me. You know, I want you to have a clear understanding. I want you to feel like at least you had an opportunity to be heard and get your questions answered, just like we do with any other thing that is kind of confusion. We kind of take it off the table. We take it to the Clinton building. We have study sessions about it. The rental thing went so till we just took it completely off the table. So it just depends. So I would ask that. That's my recommendation from hearing the people tonight, that I think we owe that much to them.
Well, there's several ways that can happen. Either there's got to be a motion to table, or there's no motion and then it dies for lack of motion. Is that
Well,
correct,
is it a
David?
motion yet? I don't think it's a motion on the floor yet.
There's not a motion on the floor. So either it dies for lack of a motion, or you motion to put it on the table. Then we put it on the table till a later date until things are done. Those are the two options, correct?
Correct.
So as mayor, I've given everybody the options. Now you've got to decide what you want to do. Either table the motion or not make a motion.
Well, I make a motion that we table the motion until we can have a study session to kind of help them better understand what's the real purpose of having this ordinance. And then if we feel need to bring it back, then bring it back.
I'll second that.
Motion made second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Turnbow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Teach Out,
Yes.
and Lible.
Yes. It is tabled.
I have to run to Public Safety Advisory Board meeting that we got going on at 6, so y'all excuse me.
6:07, you like.
I won't be there, Chief.
You all right, Sheriff? Good.
What am I losing? All right, now that that is tabled, we'll move on. The next item is,
The audit.
we're gonna, all right, we gotta have order. It's enough. The next item is to receive the fiscal year 2024 audit. Amanda, you have the floor.
I think we'll go through this rather quickly if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
Every year, the city undergoes an audit by an independent auditor. Our current auditor is Busnek, Hay, Rowe, and Schroeder. You all have received a copy of this year of the FY24 audit. That audit is available online to all citizens who want to look over it. A couple of things on this in the council letter. You guys have that. Like I said, we'll go rather quickly. One of the things that I did want to bring to note is that this audit did find what they consider a deficiency. That happened because we are required by law to report revenues from leases. There was a miscalculation in the formula that was put into a spreadsheet that calculated the lease or the revenue for a lease that extends over a 40-year period. So it simply was a miscalculation of interest for that lease that extends out. There has already been some measures put in place by staff and by our auditors. There's a software program that will now calculate that for us so that we don't have to worry about that particular incident happening in the future. So that's that's the only thing that we've been able to find that was the audit brought to our attention this year. As I said, we've already put some measures in place to keep that from happening in the future. Basically, what it did is it understated our revenue, so we are actually in a better position than we had thought previously. The other one thing that we would like to bring to attention is our governmental funds did increase. Some of that was due to interest rates. Everybody is aware that over the last year or so, our interest rates have been higher than average, and thus we earned interest on our budget, our fund balances. And then our long-term debt was decreased by $2.3 million. And that's a result of us paying off our long-term debt for some bonds that we've purchased. So with that, one other thing to note is that there were no deficiencies found in our federal audit requirements. So we are required to complete a single audit because we receive more than $750,000 in federal aid. Because of that, we have to undergo a specific audit just for our federal grants, and there were no deficiencies found in that. So, with that, all I'm asking is that you guys make a motion to accept the FY24 audit.
Any questions or comments? Chair would accept the motion.
Second.
Motion made second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Teachout,
Yes.
Lible,
Yes.
Turnbow.
Yes. Thank you. The next item is first reading of Bill 6366, termination of Main and Malone TIF. The chair will accept the motion for the first reading.
So moved.
Motion made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First reading, Tabitha, please.
Bill number 6366 as approved shall become ordinance number 6366, terminating tax increment financing within the North Main and Malone redevelopment area, dissolving the special allocation fund related thereto, and authorizing certain actions related thereto. This bill includes sections 1 through 8, all of its parts and subparts, and it's read and introduced the first time on the 27th day of January 2025.
Thank you. You got the floor.
I just want to point out, I apologize that I noticed a typo whenever I came in my audit or in my council letter in the background. It says that we adopted ordinance number 5610 in 2024. We actually adopted that in 2004, so I apologize for that typo. We discussed our redevelopment districts earlier this evening in the public hearing. So this is what I refer to for the Main and Malone. That's the area that's where Buffalo Wild Wings is, right in the Walgreens area, that area of town. The TIF district was established in 2004 with ordinance number 5610. All of those special funds have been paid off. In that particular district, we did have a special allocation fund, which was called a TDD. That was the agreement that we entered in with MoDOT in order to put the turn signal or the lights that are there at Lake and Main. So that was part of that. There's a special district within the TIF district. So it does get a little bit confusing when you read these letters because it refers to two different things, and that's what that is. So all of those districts have been paid in full, and so this will terminate the TIF, the special financing TIF district that is at Main and Malone.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Crowe.
Does that make the taxes go down at Walgreens, those type of places?
Yes, sir, it will. We have already stopped collecting those taxes. In order to, for the TDD, there is a little bit, we had to undergo a state audit. So for that particular taxing district, we actually have to go through a separate audit through the state auditor's office. We actually stopped charging, since all of the taxes and it was paid back in full, all the obligations paid back in full back in 2023. We stopped collecting the taxes at that point, and then we were just now able to get the approval from the state auditor's office to close out the TDD, and once the TDD is closed, then we can close out the TIF district as well. So those taxes had stopped being collected in 2023. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, the chair would accept the motion. First reading, I'm sorry. Thank you. Let's go to the next one. Let's see, the next item is first reading of Bill 6367, Transportation Development District Solution Agreement. Chair would accept the motion for the first reading.
Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First reading, Tabitha, please.
Bill number 6367, as approved, shall become ordinance number 6367, approving a Transportation Development District Dissolution Agreement. This includes sections 1 through 3, and it's read and introduced this first time on the 27th day of January 2025.
Amanda, you have the floor.
As we mentioned before, this is the same area of town. This is the TDD, the special taxing district that was established in that TIF district at Main and Malone. We are entering into an agreement to dissolve that and then disperse the money the taxes that were collected between the different taxing entities. So the city of Sikeston will collect some of that will go back to the city. Some of that will go to the Highway Missouri MoDOT, because they were a partner with us in that particular thing, and they're in that project, and they will receive part of that tax, the surplus taxes that were collected there.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
See, the next item is the first reading of Bill 6368, amend Title 5, Article 4, Fire Code. And the chair will accept accept a motion for the first reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First reading, Tabitha, please.
Bill number 6368, as approved, shall become ordinance number 6368 and shall amend Title 5, Chapter 500, Article 4, Fire Code in the Municipal Code of the City of Sikeston, Missouri. Be ordained by the City Council of the City of Sikeston, Missouri as follows. This bill includes sections 1 through 5, all of their parts and subparts, and it's read this first time this 27th day of January 2025.
Thank you. Captain?
Evening.
Good evening.
Sorry, got a little bit of a throat thing going on. This is going to give us the ability to, when we talk to contractors and architects, they question whether or not we have it in code or ordinance to require them to put in smoke detection systems, fire alarm systems, where it is not already currently outlined by the International Fire Code. We're given that authority in the book to be able to ask for these things through the being the authority having jurisdiction. But if it's not in the code, it's not in the book specifically, then we get into arguments, and this will give us the ability to stop that argument. And specifically, like we've had architects ask, where is it at in the code? They don't have a problem putting it, but when they want to be able to reference what they're putting in.
I think, and Zach, these are all requirements that you enforce currently. So
Yes.
that's not,
Yeah,
this is not any new requirements. This is really just an effort to be a little bit more transparent and
Yes, sir. Yeah, we these are practices that we already currently do. We've asked plenty of times and they comply. It's just, like I said, it's a technical thing more for the peace of mind of a architect when they're drawing it out, saying, hey, you know, their ordinance is requiring it, not just IFC. So,
any questions or comments? Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is a request for authorization to purchase fire gear. And yep, you're still up.
Back.
So this is simply just a request to purchase fire gear. It's turnout gear that we use to fight fire in. And there also is a request to purchase a second set of dual cert gear. It's just simply a lighter weight set of gear that would be used as a kind of one size fits all for things such as motor vehicle accidents. It's really easy to tear that gear out in an accident or out on a brush fire. And the dual cert gear is made so that it's cheaper. It gives us the protection we need, but we're not tearing up a $5,000 set of structure gear. But the other purchase on there is for structure gear, specifically fitted to 6 new officers.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, the chair would accept a motion.
Move to authorize the purchase of the fire gear.
Second.
Motion made second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Teachout,
Yes.
Lible,
Yes.
Turnbow,
Yes.
and Robinson.
Yes.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
sir.
Next item, request authorization to proceed with 2024 Homeland Security Grant Program purchases for mobile command truck. And we have another, Captain Smith.
Good evening.
Evening.
Okay, the Sikeston Department of Public Safety has applied for and received approval for a grant through the local RSOC in the amount of $15,404.20. This grant will fund critical services required for the mobile command truck. The proposed purchases and services include an additional 12 months of satellite service for the mobile command truck, 12 months of service for a cellular gateway enabling reliable communication capabilities, and continued support for the Instant Connect program, which integrates the land mobile radio interface and computer-based dispatch software used by operators on the mobile command truck. All the services requested are provided by the current service providers for the truck. The grant will cover all associated costs, ensuring there's no financial burden on the city of Sikeston. Like I said, we have submitted and been approved, just simply needed to be accepted by the council so we can proceed with those purchases.
Any questions or comments for Captain Smith? Seeing none, the chair would accept the motion.
I move we accept the grant and approve the purchases needed for the command truck.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Teachout,
Yes.
Lible,
Yes.
Turnbow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
The next item is request for approval for Motorola contract for in-car camera system. Yes. And Captain Smith, you're still up.
Thank you. Sikeston Department of Public Safety is requesting approval to purchase 2 in-car camera systems for Motorola for under a 5-year contract. Motorola is the current provider of the body cameras utilized by DPS officers, and its in-car solution offers seamless integration with the existing body cameras. Some benefits of this purchase would include full compatibility with the current body cameras, utilization of the same evidence client software, eliminating the need for additional setup fees, comprehensive warranty coverage for the duration of the contract, and unlimited data storage for video recorded and uploaded by the 2 systems. The total cost of the 2 in-car systems is $21,160, which will be distributed across annual payments. DPS has selected Motorola as a sole vendor due to its ability to integrate with the existing and newly implemented body cameras. Approval of this purchase will enhance the department's ability to record and manage mobile evidence efficiently while maintaining cost effectiveness. And last but not least, funds to cover this purchase are included in the current fiscal budget.
Any questions? Captain Smith? Seeing none, the chair would accept the motion.
I make a motion that we approve the Motorola contract for the in-car camera systems.
Second.
Motion made and second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Lible,
Yes.
Turnbow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Teachout.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is request to award RFP 25-41 airport farm lease. And,
I'm taking that one, sir.
oh, you taking that one too, huh?
I'm taking that one too, I'm afraid.
Jay, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. As you may or may not be aware, council, we do have a large amount of land north of the airport runway that has to be, nothing can be built on it because of FAA regulations. So one of the things that many cities will do is will let that out to be farmed so that instead of us having to expend money to take care of it, mow it, things of that nature, we can actually use it productively and actually make a little revenue off of it. We've done that for several years now. Our recently, the farmer that we had decided to no longer pursue that and gave us his resignation letter. So we put out bids. We received bids once, and we only received one bid, and it was not a complete bid. So we put it out again, hoping to get more, and we only got one bid again. On January 17th, we received a bid from Austin Bird Farms with a proposal to farm the airport farmland for $3,220 a year, which is only $35 an acre. It's much less than we were doing, but we put this out publicly, and it was the only bid we got. So we're happy to suggest that council approve the farm lease for the term of February 2025 through December 2030. It's a 5-year lease to Austin Bird Farms. Once again, that will
not have a cost for us to maintain the land, and it will be productive, and there's a little bit of revenue being made from it. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions or comments?
Who was farming it?
Wimberly O'Neill.
Yes. Wimberly.
O'Neill, I'm sorry.
Wimberly Farms. Yeah, O'Neill Wimberly. Yeah, Wimberly Farms.
What was the old lease price?
I knew you were going to ask me that, Mr. Rumpson.
$7,500.
It was a little over double.
$70 an acre, something like that?
Okay.
This is a little less than half, 92 acres. 92 acres.
How much of a drop was it last year?
About half.
Oh, I should have bid it on that.
Yeah, I would have loved it. Yeah. Yeah, Wimberly Farms, and it's about half.
Any more questions or comments? The chair would accept a motion to accept the term farm lease, RFP 25-42.
I went blank.
Make a motion to accept the lease.
Second.
Motion made and second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Bible,
Yes.
Turnbow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Teachout.
Yes.
The next item, authorized purchase of playground equipment for Central and Clayton Park. And Mr. Lancaster, you've got that one also, right?
Yes, sir. Mr. Meyer is out today. Asked me to present this on his behalf. This is for some playground units that were destroyed back in May from the tornado. The storm that came through took out certain pieces of certain improvements in both Clayton and Central Park. We're working with FEMA to get all of these replaced. In addition to playgrounds, there's pavilions, other improvements. This is specific to the playgrounds. This is for if you're familiar with FEMA, they like you to replace what was damaged. You're not really allowed to improve much upon it and go bigger, better, but you are allowed to get things up to modern day specifications and codes. So we sought out Next Generation Recreation to help us come up with a solution for this, and they've produced an estimate that's attached with 3 units for Central and 1 unit for Clayton to replace those pieces of equipment. Because most of these playground companies go through the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing arrangements, so it meets our city purchasing policies, which complies for FEMA. The total price for the 4 units, just to get specific, there is a main playground unit in Central that was $28,462. A T-swing, which is for younger children, which is $2,223. A heavy-duty swing for, I would say, standard children, $4,260. I don't know the age range. Matt back there could tell me the age range on it. 5 to 12, there you go. And then an $8,000 and $8,087 climber at Clayton Park that was destroyed. Counting shipping and installation, it was a total price of $63,550 for the 4 units. Playgrounds are something that I've learned in this job are not something that's an inexpensive item these days. So, especially if you want something that's commercial and has warranties and can last years and is safe for children. So we are looking to recommend this for council approval. These costs will be submitted to FEMA at the appropriate time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Is there any, does FEMA typically pay for all of it? Do they pay for 80%?
I was going to confirm with Amanda, we anticipate 75% reimbursement from FEMA.
We anticipate 75% from FEMA for the federal reimbursement. There's potential that we could receive some additional state, but that has not been confirmed.
I would say, based on my conversations with people, it's very unlikely there'll be any
So it would be
capacity.
75% from FEMA, and the city would.
Any questions or comments for Jay?
There was nothing requested for park over at the On the Sunset where we're at John Dancer Field, all the playground equipment, most of it was destroyed over there too. So FEMA only gave money to the Clayton part.
The only damage from the storm was Clayton and Central. The Roberta Rowe area, we actually we're working on someone to provide some new pieces of equipment there. Two pieces coming in. They weren't damaged from the storm, but there were some that was just kind of were in need of replacement from just time and old, but not from the storm. And there's a couple pieces we've ordered that have already been approved previously.
What about the field itself?
The field itself?
Yeah. Wasn't damaged?
No, sir. No. You talking about the dancer field? Oh, I mean, debris, I'm sure. Yeah. As far as the fence and lighting and things of that nature, once winter's over and spring's here, we'll have to get in there and do all of the normal spring cleaning of the field and get everything ready for play. But nothing was, no fences were damaged there, were they? No. The way the path of the storm happened, it started down there at Clayton, made its way through Central, and the other park that got hit was VFW. The fence was torn down and a light pole was torn down at VFW on more of the east side of town. It kind of took that northeast path, but if there's anything, if there's ever anything damaged in a park anywhere, please let us know. Our intent is to have everything in good shape. So if there's anything damaged, please let us know.
Mr. Crow?
Does FEMA pay for any of the installation of any of this?
That's included. 75% of it, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments? Seeing none, the chair would accept a motion.
Make a motion that we authorize purchase of the playground.
I'll stick around.
Central Park and Clayton Park.
Second.
Motion made second. Roll call vote, Rhonda, please.
Turnbow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Teachout,
Yes.
and Lible.
Yes.
The next item, request to authorize purchase of ident fingerprint devices with Justice Assistance Grant funds, and we've got Captain Broom.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We applied for this grant. I'm asking for council approval to proceed and accept this grant and then make the purchase. We applied for this grant in December. It's with the Bureau of Justice, Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, excuse me, for about $13,221. There's no match on this, requiring no money from the city. 100% funded through the Department of Justice. And what we're wanting to purchase is 4 Ident 2.0 fingerprint readers. And basically what those are is fingerprint readers that the officers carry inside their patrol cars that are hooked to their MDTs, the laptops. Sometimes we encounter people that may not want to, they're not carrying identification on them, or they may give us a false name or something like that. We're able to use that fingerprint reader and learn who that person's identity is. They may have be wanted for crimes in different states or what have you, just basically to identify people in the field.
Are there any questions or comments? See? Yes, sir.
Okay. So, you just get these here for me that an officer can drive and they see someone and they say, I want to stop and see who he is. I don't know him. Run their prints.
No, typically, how we would come in contact with a person, say like on a traffic stop or something like that. We ask for driver's license and they say, I don't have a driver's license on me. We can use that device to determine if they're actually telling us their correct name and if they do have a valid driver's license. Sometimes we get calls where somebody may report, say for example, a suspicious person walking in a neighborhood that's had a lot of thefts or things like that. We get out with that person and they may have indicators that they're not telling the truth about their identity. They don't have a driver's license or ID on them. then we can scan them with that fingerprint. But as far as like just randomly walking up to people and scanning their fingerprints, we won't do that.
So what determines, I mean, is a person under arrest first? What justifies you, the ability, while you just have them, or questioning them, before you?
There would be what we call reasonable suspicion, or, maybe probable cause. Those things would come into play. There would be a reason why we would want to identify them. We may believe that they've committed a crime or about to commit a crime. We wouldn't just randomly walk up to folks and say, hey, give me your fingerprints.
So you can have somebody pulled over for speeding and there's a passenger or somebody in the car, and you ask for their identification. They're not driving, they're just in the vehicle. And if they refuse to give you their name and their ID, then you request, or do you is it a demand or mandatory that you?
Well, you be different scenarios there. For example, if I suspected that you were a certain person, but maybe I'm not 100% sure you're who I think you might be, and then I go to identify you and you don't have ID on you, then I could ask you to submit your fingerprints to that.
So again, you see the problem with that, right? Because I have a real life situation where my mother was pulled over, my daughter's in the car, and she was demanded to give her ID. And she says, why? So again, it can turn just like that, where it's a bad situation, where there was no justifiable reason. It was just, she was with my mother and was questioned why. So you see the
well, I would say that it would depend on, say if you're a passenger in a vehicle and you don't have your seatbelt on, then in that situation you would have to identify yourself, because the officer would have to issue a citation.
It's, yeah. Yeah.
Where does how does the Constitution place in this here, or when someone, I'm saying, like, you're not under arrest, or and they just pull you up, how does that keep from violating someone, because they're in a car? I mean, the person that committed a crime, they don't have to give you the information that you request.
What we're doing here is we're only looking at the process of purchasing fingerprint. We're not going through why they would ever fingerprint somebody. That's a whole different ballgame. It's just the fact of buying these.
See, that ain't a whole new matter. You buy them to use them. See, so you don't buy them just for decoration. So if you're gonna be just,
But it's no different. When we purchase pistols to obey the law, not to go shoot somebody. So what we were trying to say is this is just a tool. However they use the tool has to be a legal act for how they use it. And so we're not here to debate whether or not when to use it. We're here to say we can purchase these, and then they can determine when it is legal for them to use it.
as a citizen, you're saying, I want to feel comfortable now. I want to be comfortable allowing them to purchase something that can be used again. My grandson, my great grandson, in the car, that might not want to, and then when the officer says, well, because I told you so. And I'm not saying because I asked you to give me this, tell me this here. He said, well, I ain't telling you nothing. He ain't just did nothing. It's so open to where it can cause a number of aggressive, undue aggressiveness for innocent people, innocent citizens.
But again, we're looking at the purchase of a piece of equipment. We're not looking at the validity of when they can ask for it, when they don't ask for it. Right now, we're just looking at purchasing this equipment, and then if you want to question them aside from this about when they can use it, that's a different topic altogether than purchasing the equipment. No different than, we purchase these cars, but we don't allow them to run over people with cars because that's not the right thing to do. So we can't go through every rabbit hole by saying, what are you going to use it for? We're going to purchase the equipment, and then it's up to them, and then they can discuss with you about the validity or the legalities of when they can use it and when they can't use it. We're not discussing that. We're discussing the purchase of equipment. Period.
And this is a piece of equipment that we already have. We are just, this grant will help add to the ones that we have. We don't have in every single car. We have 3 or 4 of them right now. Some of them are really older units that are just almost on their last leg as far as serviceability. So this is something that we've been using. And like I said, we don't just randomly just walk up to somebody and demand that they submit their fingerprints. You know, there's reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they believe a crime occurred. And kind of like, you know, we talked about earlier, you know, if you ran into a situation where somebody did demand something that you felt was inappropriate or unjust, then by all means you should complain about that.
The chair would accept a motion.
Sounds like a good idea.
I move we accept the grant as presented and purchase of the ident fingerprint equipment.
Got a motion? Need a second?
I'll second.
Motion made second. Rhonda, roll call vote, please.
Robinson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Teachout,
Yes.
Lible,
Yes.
and Turnbow.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any other items to be brought before the council tonight? Yes, sir?
I have just one thing, sorry. We got a letter today from ISO, the insurance rating for the city on their fire protection. We moved up from a 4 to a 3. Like I said, just received that today. I wanted to let you guys know that.
And the effects of that is cheaper
Insurance rates.
cheaper insurance for the citizens.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other things to be brought before the council? Now the chair would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.